Welcome to Accounting High.
Who qualifies to play the game with you? I believe that every person here listening has a specialty of some sort. And if you don't, it's time to pick one. I call it the picky paradox. The choosier you are, the more choices you wind up having. Those who look hungry never get fed.
Because you're creating more desire too.
Correct. Yep.
It's the desperation factor.
Yeah.
When you're desperate, people can sense that. They can smell that.
They can smell it. They can smell scarcity from a mile away.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the exclusivity. That's the red carpet.
Yeah.
You're creating desire.
You're creating desire without actually ever doing anything about it.
Ooh, I love that.
May I have your attention, please?
Welcome to Accounting High. It's freshman year at a brand new school. Here, we have no rules in place as we're on a mission to set our own traditions. So hang tight and learn with us as we grow. At Accounting High, you can expect to gain knowledge in a completely different way than what you may be used to, with some fun and oftentimes colorful conversations involving some of the best teachers in the accounting industry. Whether you loved high school or you hated it, here's your chance to be a part of an unforgettable experience redone. While you're here, don't forget to follow us on Spotify or subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you may be listening to us right now so you don't miss out on any new episodes. And feel free to leave us a 5-star review letting us know how the school year is treating you. In addition, share this episode on social media, tagging us at Accounting High. So sit back, relax, and open your mind because class is in session.
I repeat, may I have your attention, please?
This is another public service announcement brought to you in part
by Accounting High.
The views and events expressed here are
of the next generation of accounting and tech professionals leading this space.
The events and suggestions are not to be taken lightly. Children should not partake in the listening
of this podcast.
Anything else?
Yeah.
So without further ado, introducing the star of our show,
Scotty and the Pitch Queen.
We're gonna have a problem here.
Michelle Weinstein, the Pitch Queen.
Hey, hey.
What up? How to make the varsity team. It all rhymes.
How to make the varsity team. Yeah, I think
it all
today
goes together.
We're talking about our second winning tip to get to varsity so you don't have to be benched your whole career.
Is this like the day 2 of tryouts, or is this like pre-tryouts?
I would say probably this is like day 2 of tryouts, but you know you're a starter. So this is how you're going to start. You're going to be one of the 5 players on the court.
I mean,
you're not going to
try
sit
out
the bench.
and not make varsity though. You could try out and then get put on JV after tryouts too, right?
That's true. But if you follow these rules and these tips that I provide, you should not be demoted.
You will make the team. This is why we're calling it How to Make the Team, and we're going to talk about who qualifies
to play the game
even
with you.
Play the game.
Yeah. And what I mean by that is the clients. Your current roster. I'm sure some of you might think, like, I have some pain in the ass clients on my roster. PITA clients. You know, that word.
PITAs, yeah.
PITAs. Or you might have the clients that you're charging the lowest amount, yet they take up the most time and they are your biggest headache. Or you might have some clients that you've benched for a while. You've completely forgot about them and they need to be reawakened. So really, who qualifies to play the game with you? Who of your current clients do you need to keep? How do you assess new clients coming in, and how are you more specific about that? Because if you help everyone, number one, you can't help everyone. And to be honest, you shouldn't want to either. And if you really were to think about it, would an oral surgeon take on a client that just needed a teeth cleaning? You know, or would a neurosurgeon take on a client or a new patient that just had a headache? Probably not. If you just had a head cold, you go to your general practitioner. If you need something more serious and you got MRI, you got CT scans, etc., then you would need to go see a specialized surgeon. And I believe that every person here listening has a specialty of some sort. And if you don't, it's time to pick one.
Well, also on the same lines, if you're a general practitioner, you should not be performing brain surgery.
Correct.
and you should not be taking on those either. So,
Yeah, because you're the expert. A lot of you have an EA, a CPA, maybe a CFP. In addition to all that, you have masters in taxation. You've got all these other letters after your name. You are an expert, and you must choose your patients, aka clients in our world, accordingly.
and you must have patience in order to do that.
You must have patience. That's very true.
It's another P
But
word.
it is another P word. And that's a really important one for the sales process. But I don't know if, like, for you, Scott, have you ever, like, taken on, when you had your firm and you were in that for the day to day, but did you ever take on a client that really wasn't a fit for you?
Oh, we do that all the time. We did until
You
I
did.
got out of it. That now my team is very careful about
Okay.
vetting clients, but we still don't have an industry vertical, a niche. I've been getting in the way of that because I want it to be perfect. And I also just don't think that the way that our firm is right now, I think that we need a new firm if we're going to have that niche or vertical. And that's a whole nother conversation.
That's a
But-
whole nother conversation. But
but the
it's
right
worth-
client, but defining and identifying who the right client is. I know that I never did that because anybody that wanted to pay us, if they wanted to work with us and they liked us, then that's another sale. Like
Yeah.
from my sales mindset, yeah, we can do that for you. Sure.
But did you ever take on one of those clients and then charge less than what maybe you were worth, or give them a discount of some sorts? Because it was like,
Well, there was always some clients that you couldn't ever charge enough because of the situation. But I think that we always did a pretty good job at least charging a lot up front, especially if it was something that I was unsure of. I would always put a higher price on it. But then the warning of that was whatever price I put out there and they said yes, then there's probably there's an issue here. There's something
right.
else we're
And then
gonna
you
uncover.
continue working with them, and then they drive you crazy, or they take up the most amount of time. They take up the staff's amount of time. But I'm sure there's some listeners and firm owners listening who you've taken on a client, you charge less than what you're worth, you've given a discount, or you even took on a client that you didn't really want to work with, but you were so desperate and stressed about money, so you took them anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or if you've ever, had some long-term clients, like I spoke to a firm owner, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago. He's had 42 clients that he's had since he started the business, and he called them grandfathered in. Yet he knows that he's basically losing money on every single client, but he's terrified to increase the rates because he's afraid that they're all going to leave him. Yet he's in the negative with all of them. So you have 42 clients that you've taken on at grandfathered fees back when you thought you would charge very little, and then in the future you could increase your fees to them, and everything would be hunky-dory, but you're terrified to even do that step. So that also can take a toll, but you also have, maybe like your situation, Scott, you had extra unexpected work that you never charged for, where there was extra stuff that had to get done.
Well, and not just extra, but like not even defining the scope sometimes.
Yeah.
So you're doing too many things that you should have been charging different anyway, but you didn't know because going into an engagement, a new type of engagement,
Yep.
you don't even know the right questions to ask.
Yeah. And that is the main important thing. And I don't know what we want to call it here that goes along with high school. But what I teach my students, I don't know if you've ever been to like a club or a place like the red carpet, but only certain people can get on that carpet. Right?
I mean, you've got the cool kids. I don't know.
You've got the cool kids, but you also have hand-picked people that are invited to come to like the Emmys or the Grammys or whatever. So they're hand-selected. So really the key is to take back your power and hand-select who you want as a client and who you do not want as a client. So you get the right clients paying you what you're worth at the prices that you want and not bending backwards or anything. It's like you wouldn't send an invitation. If you only had 100 invitations, let's say, or let's say you have a client roster of 20, you're not going to just send out 40 invitations and hope that only 20 show up. When you send out 20, you're sending it to the right clients, to the ones that you wanted on that invite list, to the ones you wanted on that red carpet. So it's more exclusive and it's
The
more
ones that you want on your
hand-selected.
varsity team.
And those
You
are the
only
ones
have-
that you want on your varsity team. So you, the coach, gets to pick who that is. So when I talk about know who qualifies to play the game with you, we have to know who our ideal client is. Who is that ideal player who's going to play point guard? Who's the ideal forward that's going to be tall enough to, do whatever they do down there on the And it's the same with our firm. We have to know who our ideal client is. So some ways to think about that, yes, could be an industry niche. Like, for example, for me here at the Abundant Accountant, our ideal client is someone who has a firm already. They've started it. Maybe you're doing it part-time. Maybe you're still in a job. Maybe you've been doing it full-time. Maybe you had the firm passed down to you. Maybe you purchased the firm. Whatever. You've got something that you've attempted to embark on. That's one of our requirements. The other one is that you've attempted a few sales conversations with your clients, but you're either discounting your fees, you're giving away information for free, you're forgetting to bill clients, you're getting paid later, you have receivables that are pretty high, you want to get rid of it, you want to make double the amount of revenue, if not triple, and you want to work way less than you are right now. Those are some of our criteria, and we're looking for firm owners who want to take action now. You don't want to wait another day to let this problem linger on. So for you, Scott, right, you might want clients that are ready to take action now. How many clients have you met saying, oh, I'm just looking around, I might change firms one day?
I don't know.
Has that happened?
I guess, I don't know. By the time they, we have a pretty unique sales process or intake process where they've got to fill out an entire type form, and we make them do a lot of stuff before they even meet with us.
Love it. Me too.
It's going to have to be worth their time. Yeah, it'll definitely have to be worth their time by the time we finally meet with them. We put all those guards up and we ask all the qualifying questions so we can filter them out before they even meet with us.
Beautiful.
And this way, they are the right fit by the time they get through that. And we have some odd questions on there too, just to test things out. And if it's like the urgency, and if they put a 10 on the urgency, then we know there's probably also another issue too. Like if they need to start right away or they can't wait anytime.
Yeah.
So, but also when they say not urgent, then we look at the rest of it too to see if it's even worth meeting with
your
them.
time. Exactly. Yeah. So that's beautiful that you have that in place. I'd say most of the firm owners I encounter don't even have that step in place. That's a very important step. They have to jump through some hoops. They have to follow your process. So that could be one of the things that you put, if you think about it, on who's going to get on your varsity team. Another one could be that you only work with clients who want ongoing monthly services.
That's another thing we do. Yeah.
Okay, great. So if you're doing 1040s and you allow clients to do like a one and done type one-off service, that's more of a commodity type situation, and then that's it. Well, maybe going forward, you're like, no, they have to at least engage with us in 2 services minimum. They have to do monthly ongoing services. Whatever it may be, you want to think about that. The problem lies when you bend over backwards and say, oh, well, they just started their business, so I'll do their business return, and maybe in the future I'll do their bookkeeping and accounting. That's not going to fly. Now you're bending your policies.
Yeah, we used to do that, but then we converted to, okay, if they got somebody else doing their taxes, we'll do all the books, and eventually we'll take on the tax work, but they need to be an ongoing. We stopped taking tax-only work unless it was like somebody else's other business, and we just needed to do the taxes for it or something like that.
But that's still
if it was an existing client. Yeah.
So it's an existing client. So you're either going to say, yes, I'm going to do only people with ongoing services, or I'm going to do a multiple engagement situation for the year. So if they had 2 different businesses, maybe you'll do 2 different business tax returns and then take on the accounting later. You get to make up your rules. You get to make up who you want on your team and who you don't. It's up to you. What I'm saying is come up with this list. And I would have a minimum of 5 things on your list. If you don't have a minimum of 5, you need to get to work, because that means you're just working with anybody. You're letting anyone come in. It doesn't matter, if they're a restaurant, a service-based business, a nonprofit. You're just like anything and everything. And you can't be perfect or not perfect. You can't be an expert if you're all things to all people. Like, I only work with firm owners. I know how you think. I know how you communicate with clients. I know how to solve every single problem. So a lot of people have done, sales training with other people, and they say, Michelle, this is different. You get us. And I'm like, I know. I get you, because I've niched down. So pick an industry. I picked accounting, tax, bookkeeping, firm owners, CFO services, anything in that nature. I don't work with financial advisors. I don't work with anyone in the finance or whatever. I don't work with lawyers. I only work with you guys. Mm-hmm. So if you came and were known as the person that only, let's just say I had a client, she only worked with restaurants. Guess what? She knows a lot of things to make her work more efficient, unique, and different than everybody else, because every client of hers is a restaurant. So if they're having inventory issues, she's probably an expert at it. Not probably. She is an expert at it. It doesn't matter what it is, but I would say pick one and go all in on it. You might also have a revenue minimum. I only work with service-based businesses that are doing $100,000 of revenue a year, or 500,000, or
$1 million plus. I've seen
or
that.
$1 million plus. Or if you're doing tax planning, I'm only going to work with businesses, that have a net income of above $200,000 or something, where you can help save them money on taxes. Whatever that is, pick it and stick to it.
So both of those that's two of our questions on the type form.
Oh,
what's
perfect.
What's their revenue? What's their, obviously what industry?
Yeah.
How many employees? Like there's just a bunch of qualifying things. So then that's what, obviously those are the things that we weed out. And then also if it's a certain situation, then we know we're not going to work with them. Like if it's from a certain state or if it has a certain, like if they're, depending on what they're asking for, obviously, like that's not a service that we provide. Now, we used to just, we didn't have that. And sometimes I would not ask the right questions during a call. And then somebody else is reviewing the proposal that I put together. And they're like, wait, like where is this? Like I spaced out during the call. Right. And so that's why we needed that control in place. So these are questions that asked before the call.
It's important. I mean, I even ask revenue of a firm owner, but I don't base, if I'm going to meet with you, based on that, because we work with a lot of firms who are, in that $0 to $100,000 range. But if you tell me your goal is to get above $200,000 or $250,000, I'm your gal. That means you're going to work hard and you're ready to double your revenue, if not triple it. That I'm all about. But everyone might ask questions on their qualification form for different reasons. But what I want you to think about is, what are the 5 things that you can think of today? Well, I say 10, but let's just start with 5 if you have 0 right now, because at least we're moving in the right direction. Because if you're taking on everybody and anybody, you have no idea who your ideal client is, then you're never going to be able to really be an expert in your field, generate a lot of revenue, work less, and have your life back. That I can guarantee you. You're going to deal with people price shopping you. You're going to keep it being in the commodity conversation and comparing your price to the other firm's price, lowering it. You're going to have clients who show up late to meetings and calls. It's not a good recipe for success. So if you want to be on JV or a freshman team, no problem. You can tune out what we're talking about. But if you want varsity and you want the varsity players who are the starting 5, this is a game changer.
So what about for the people that have a client base that's pretty mixed, like let's say mine? So we got about 100 clients.
Okay.
They're all a bit different. There's no common theme, except they're all paying us enough and they're all monthly. And, that's all similar. But I fear if I niche, I want to go all in and I want to go deep, and then, but I don't want to get rid of our current client base. So that's the stage I'm in. And
I think there's a lot of clients that I work with that are in your exact stage. They might not have 100 monthly paying clients, but they have 20, 30, 40, and they're all over the board. And what I would say is really the key to claiming your abundance, like we were talking about yesterday, instead of thinking this from a scarcity department, is setting up these boundaries, not from fear, not from scarcity, not from a lack of clients, but just saying, moving forward from this point forward, this is what we're doing. and you keep your current clients. Like you said, you can start another entity if you want, but it's the way you communicate in your advertising, in your marketing, in your social media. It will be a lot different, and the clients you attract will be significantly different. And then my other thing for you, Scott, would be that if you have any clients of one particular, I know you said they're all over the board, but I'm sure there's a handful of ones that you really want to work with if you were to go all in. What I would do is interview those clients. I would get client case studies from them. I would get client reviews and testimonials from them, because that will help you attract more of those types of clients. The other ones, you just keep servicing. They're great. They're paying. They're not a pain in the They're not anyone you want to fire. Great. You're doing great work for them. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying you have to get rid of any of those clients, but I'm saying if you want to take it to another level, why don't you become a neurosurgeon? Why don't you pick a specialty of who you work with and watch that happen?
That's also the key to unlocking much larger fees and to unlocking
it is.
The scary A word, advisory, and doing
that's the advisory work. If you want to become expert, going deeper with clients, knowing things that most firms don't know, because like you said, your client base is broad. They pay, you do great work. It's probably just, great work, but basic, nothing totally like you're meeting quarterly and, monthly and really coming up with these unique ideas that no one else is. When you start to see patterns, let's just say it was dentists, because there's someone in my mastermind, he only works with dentists. He knows the ins and outs of a dental practice. Like, he could probably help them at a level that no one else can. And that's where you can do advisory work, and that's where you can charge very, very premium fees. It's no different than someone in California flying to the Mayo Clinic in wherever that is, Ohio, and getting with the top doctor. Do you want to be the top doctor, or you want to be the top varsity team and go to the championships? That's the way to do it. That's the fast track. Because I know the temptation is to take on every client that probably comes your way that meets the financial minimums and criteria. However, you can make so much more money with such a less volume if you figured this out. Yeah. And could speak to it and got case studies on it. Like, if you go to theabundantaccountant.com and look at my case studies and testimonials, there's hundreds. I mean, I have so many and I keep getting more. I had our Tuesday call. I got 4 more. Like, that's what happens when you get to the brain surgeon specialty level.
Yep.
And you have that in you. It's just that you've taken on a lot of people, and that's okay, because that worked for you to this point. But if you want to go deeper, if you want to go further with your clients, and if you want them to have a longer stickiness factor where they're never going to leave you, you never have to think about them looking the other way, you're going to be bringing things to them to the table all the time of something you've learned, because you're going to find things specifically for that niche or for that industry.
So I've gone through this twice already, where I decided my niche, and I got the case studies and I got the testimonials, and then I lost interest. Then I did it again. We did it with what was going to be comic book stores, or very specific. And then I realized that there's probably not enough of those, even if we became the expert. It just wouldn't be like, there's, I could probably name one in every state, and that's
but you could
do
comic book store, you could do artists, you could do stuff that all encompasses under one umbrella.
We're definitely going to do that. And then I think it was just more of, I lost interest. And then we were going to do it with psychologists or psychiatrists and group practices. Yep. And then we started marketing to them. And then Scott loses interest again. So it all relied on me to execute. And I think that's also part of the lesson here is, if you could decentralize, if you have a large enough firm that you can get the team excited about that.
Yeah.
But then I also realized too, like, if you are going to successfully market to a niche, you should have one person or somebody that is the speakerhead. Like, in your case, you have your show.
I am.
And people look to you as the expert. James Ashford as well. Like, he was the speaker. He wrote the books and everything. And then we've got Jody Grundon at his practice. and he's the one that goes out and does the conferences and speaks to everybody. So it's, you do need somebody that's going to be putting themselves out there, and they can't lose interest because they're the ones who are they're the lead funnel. Like
I would say that you're very creative, Scott. So I am not surprised that you lost interest. But for your typical firm owner, who's definitely different than you, it's about the service you're providing and the revenue and them spending more time with their family and all of that. I think interesting businesses across the board, at least from the few hundred clients that I've worked with, never lost interest in a specific niche. But for creative, for someone like you, I can definitely see that happening. But I bet if you found someone with a different, disc profile than you, that was more about systems and didn't really care about the industry.
My
of the
integrator.
clients. Yeah, exactly. They would just execute it, and you put a nice bonus plan together, and they would just take off with it. So I don't think there would be a problem.
And that is Chris.
There you have it.
He is doing that. So we, this is all like in the process of us figuring these things out. I make mistakes along the way, and I got to figure out how I can be a coach to them. I even brought that up today since we mentioned that on our last one.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday.
I need to be a better coach to them. And I told them that, and they said, yes, you do.
Yeah.
I said, I will.
Because you're all in on this podcast and all the fun creatives and your bracket and all these things.
I wonder, maybe accountants can be our niche. Maybe we can do accounting for accountants. I've said that before too. Like maybe we can do advisory and speak to accountants kind of like you do, but we also could do their taxes and their books. They shouldn't be doing their own, right?
Yeah. I don't see anything wrong with that.
I don't know. I make jokes about that, but I'm half serious too.
Yeah. I mean, it would be a good area to explore since you're building a lot of relationships in that, and you have a lead source now. With the podcast, it could be a really great option to explore.
It was something that floated around in my head because also it's like the coaching and that kind of stuff. I probably wouldn't lose interest in that because that's where my head's at.
Yeah. And that's what you're doing. But you know what? Sales is all about relationships. So if you're already building these relationships like you are right now, it's not like any other relationship if it was with a comic book store or whatever, because you are able to say no to those other clients. And I think that's really important when you figure out who your ideal client is, having the courage to turn away the ones that don't fit. And saying no is just as important as having you satisfied and having you happy in that relationship. Because if you lost interest, yet you had all these comic book stores, you're doing the accounting, you're not that into it.
Yeah.
And then everyone is better off in the end if you just say no to those kinds of clients. So
for sure,
picking the niche.
In order to do that, it does require another mindset shift into not thinking that everybody's a potential client. And that's something that I used to do. I used to always look at any interaction I had with somebody that had a business or anything like they're probably a good client too. And then all of a sudden I would start selling to them in the conversation, like somehow.
I call it the picky paradox. More peas for you. The choosier you are.
2 great peas, yeah.
Yeah, the picky paradox. The choosier you are, the more choices you wind up having. Go muddle on that one for a little bit.
Ooh, wait. The pickier you are, the more choices
the choosier you are.
Yeah.
The more choices you wind up having.
Okay.
Because it's kind of like there's a quote out there. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like those who look hungry never get fed.
Ooh. Because you're creating more desire too.
Correct. Yeah.
It's the desperation factor.
Yeah.
When you're desperate, people can sense that. They can smell that.
They can smell it. They can smell scarcity from a mile away.
But they also can smell.
The choosier you are, they can smell, ooh, I want to be a part of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the exclusivity. That's the red carpet. And that's saying, well, you know what? We may not be able to take you on, but let's
correct. Very good.
Circle back to that.
Yeah.
You're creating desire.
You're creating desire without actually ever doing anything about it.
Ooh, I love that.
And then you can also, by doing this, it eliminates the price shoppers and eliminates tire kickers or whatever you want to call it. But it turns the right clients into premium paying clients.
It does.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's dope.
Yeah.
That's
So,
and
your
it's
homework-
and that's again, these are things that we've talked about a lot on the show, but you've
Okay.
synthesized it the right way too, because like Nicole's even said this. She went from a client that's maybe at 500 to then 5,000 a month because they can do so much more for
Yeah.
them.
So much more.
Yeah, but defining that niche, and she's going through that bit of a crisis too. Like
Yeah.
she defined her niche as creative agencies, marketing creative agencies, but her bread and butter has always been these local, larger, like paper-based businesses that are bigger and that she could come in and automate everything and put everything in the cloud.
Yep.
But those are the ones that were paying like 15,000 a month, 10,000 a month. Like those are the bigger clients, but they were more local based.
Right.
So now
'cause
she's
the
trying to
creative
decide.
agencies are already tech savvy.
They're already tech
They're already
savvy.
ahead. They don't
Yeah.
need. They don't have that big problem.
Right. So
Yeah.
then in order to get the big rates for them, you've got to be the industry expert and you've
Expert.
got to be able to
Correct.
advise them and be that like advisor and offer that extra level. And that's what Summit, Jody Grundon, I referenced him already. That's how he was doing it because he was seen as the expert, and a big load of their monthly fees was the CFO services they were providing.
Yeah.
So if you're not going to provide CFO services, then you've got to define what are the services you're going to be able to charge for, or define it based on the relationship, like Ron is saying. And
Yeah.
if you're charging for the relationship, then you charge whatever you want. You define those prices.
Yeah.
Like, this piggies back onto what Ron Baker says all the time too. Like really charging the right value, but also charging. We can dot that for the next time. We
can do that. But
to summarize,
then,
though,
to summarize, that is the next step, and that is your homework to get onto the varsity squad and be on the court playing. It takes time. I would spend 30 minutes to an hour just kind of mulling over what we just talked about. You might want to hit rewind, listen to it again, grab your yellow or white notepad, and take some notes. Because the
grab
next
your yellow
tip,
notepad.
Yeah, because the next conversation we're going to have is tip number 3. So make sure to tune in for that one.
And give us a quick tidbit for tip number 3 so they know what to expect.
It's about your communication to win. How are you going to communicate with your other teammates, your coaches, the people on the bench?
That's an important one.
It's the communication piece. Yeah.
Ooh, I'm excited for that one. Dope.
Awesome.
Thanks, Michelle. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Peace out.